Yo, what is going on YouTube? My name is Billy TKO. Guys, this video is going to be a little bit different. Today we're going to be talking about the Vince McMahon Docuseries, and I'm going to give you guys my full analysis on it and my full breakdown. So, if you guys are new, definitely be sure to like, subscribe, to Twitter, TikTok, Discord, all linked down below for you guys to go check out. Now, let's just go hop into the video. All right, what is going on YouTube? Today we're going to be talking about this Vince McMahon docuseries that took place over on Netflix. And I want to give you my thoughts. And there's 6 episodes, and they're all about a little over an hour long. And I want to start off by saying they did the best that they could. That's what I'll say. And the reason why I say that they did the best that they could is because in this docuseries, if you watch the first episode, Vince actually says, this isn't verbatim, this is just, I'm not quoting it, but something along the lines of, I can't tell you the real stories, because if I did, those are wild. The producer asks, well, why? It's just too much. But I'll give you something. So in the first episode, they talk about the golden era, kind of a little bit of Vince's backstory, just explaining who he is as a person in some kind of depth. One thing I'll say is that in this documentary, up until the very end, I mean, they told me things that I, as a wrestling fan, already knew. Like, these are things about Vince that they brought to the public eye, which haven't been told to the public eye. But if you're a real wrestling fan and you've been a fan for quite some time, a lot of these things you would already know about Vince. Vince is one of the most intriguing people on planet Earth because he's so quiet. In that first episode, they talk about the golden era. They talk about Hulk Hogan, how WrestleMania 1 was created, up to WrestleMania 3, which took place in Pontiac, Michigan, and the Hulk Hogan, Andre the Giant Slam. They told that story on how Vince pretty much created the Empire. The Empire and what it was. So it's very interesting there. So with that all being said, hold on one second. I want to look this up just so I have context for you guys. That way I can give you a full breakdown. All right. Hold on one second. Yes. All right. So, yeah. I just wanted to have context. So, it was there where they talk about everything that led to Vince getting the success that he got. Now, also, they talk a little bit about some scandals that took place. The Ring Boys being one of them. Now, I could be misinterpreting. This could be in the second episode, but I just want to get this out. They talk about the Ring Boys and the allegations from that, which are horrible, horrible allegations. They also talk about the steroid trial, which, if you guys have ever watched the Vice documentaries, they talk a little bit about the trials and things of that nature. The next episode, we had the screw job, which, if you guys know, is ultimately the Montreal screw job. One of the worst things in company history that could have happened to not only Vince McMahon, but I think this episode really kind of told you who Vince McMahon was as a person. He loved to say that Bret Hart had an ego for this. And truth be told, I would have to disagree here. Vince was always about his business. Great. I think looking back, maybe then you have some kind of argument, but now looking at it in 2024, you're a piece of shit human. You are. There's like no getting away from that. And when we take a look back at that time and what WWE was creating and looking at that, you just seen so many wrongdoings, at least in the year 2024. Obviously, in the 90s, I was actually just being born. But just looking at that life and things of that nature is kind of insane. The Montreal Screwjob is one of the worst things in my eyes that has ever happened. He screwed Brett. He loved to say that Brett screwed Brett, but ultimately there were different ways to go about that business. You didn't have to do that. He didn't. It's just my honest take. I'm just being honest here. The following episode, they talk about the Attitude Era, Stone Cold Steve Austin, The Rock, DX. The way that women were portrayed on TV then is horrifying. I'll be honest with you. It is. I want to say that I went into this with an open mind, although I do feel myself a certain way about Vince McMahon, strictly off the fact that just looking back at everything that he's done and the kind of person that he is, it's horrible. It's horrible. Now, the thing is they were catering to a 18 to 34 demographic because you guys know that WCW, they were having the rise that they were. They were creating real people instead of fake characters, which the WWE was known for before then because they were trying to capture the children audience and families and thing of that nature. That was in the golden era, which we knew that. We knew that. Now, Vince was a sexual deviant. That is like the only word that I could use. He was a deviant. And he, as much as like you could say, oh, he didn't like the things that DX were doing, I think ultimately he did. And I think we're going to talk about that at the last episode a little bit. So we move on to talking about his family. And again, I'm just covering, this is all off the top of my head, what I remember. I didn't write any notes down or anything like that, so I'm probably missing a bunch of things. But I really just wanted to put my thoughts out there and give them to you guys. Because this docuseries or whatever it was is just absolutely absurd. Next one, he talks about his family. Now, in the first episode, he talked about his father and how his father never gave him any love. But Shane was actually a kid who wanted to be just like his dad. And excuse me if I get emotional for a minute. I lost my father. And as a young boy, there's only one thing that us young boys look for in this world, and that is to be like our fathers. Sorry about that alarm. It's to be like our fathers. And you hope that one day you can just be a glimpse of who they are. For me, that was not the case. My father dealt with different battles and demons, and I always told myself that I just wanted to be the best version of my father, which, if you take a look, looks like what Shane wanted. When you take a look at when Shane came back after his long hiatus, because him and his dad were just disagreeing on so many things, because his dad was blurring a line that was too close, and it's so crazy to think about because they had the Trish and Linda storyline. And you just look at the things that Vince was doing and how ultimately disgusting it was. Now, Linda is just as much here for this. Why is your husband doing that on national television? Why are you okay with that? And Shane was not. He was not happy with it. He didn't like what was happening. So he left the WWE and he wanted to go venture off on his own. They talked about how they actually wanted to buy the UFC, which is very interesting. 2020 vision, partnered with Endeavor, things of that nature. But Shane just wanted to be like his dad. And Stephanie, she just kind of played it safe. There were some things that she drew the line on. Ultimately, you kind of could tell that Stephanie was going to be the successor early on. Her and Triple H. And they talk about the marriage, and, Vince pitched how he wanted the actual wedding to take place on pay-per-view. Like, dude, for what? For what? Honestly. It's stupid. That just stupid. But ultimately, Stephanie was going to be the successor. Shane was and wanted to be the successor, but his dad was so about business. His dad only cared about business, and WWE had moved so globally on into the future that it didn't even matter what Shane did. This was always going to be the story. And yeah, it's a problem. It's a huge problem to me. So next, we're going to talk about the finish. And in that finish, they talk about Chris Benoit, which I was actually very, very interested in because obviously you guys know that when everything happened with Chris Benoit, the only time you ever heard Vince talk about it was on the news and not in his own fashion. He had to answer questions. Vince was blamed for a lot of the untimely deaths, as he said, and did not feel like he was wrong for those. Now, I feel a little bit differently because I feel like these are your employees. You worked the shit out of them. Literally worked the shit out of these guys. Broke them down in ways that they couldn't imagine because back then, now, I'm not sure if it was around Chris Benoit's time, but I know earlier on, wrestlers did not have guaranteed contracts like they do today. When you think about that, these guys had to wrestle hurt. They had to break their bodies because they had to feed their families. Excuse me for a moment. People laugh at pro wrestling, especially if you're not a fan of pro wrestling. It's so easy to laugh at. It's so easy to look at and be like, oh, you watch that fake stuff? Until you look deep into what these guys are actually going through and the pain that they're inflicting on their own bodies, you'll never know and you'll never understand. Yes, wrestling is a soap opera. Yes, it is pre-scripted. But the moment that you get in there, there's only so much faking that you can do. Eddie Guerrero and the way that he sadly was taken from us is a tragic story. Mr. Perfect. The Ultimate Warrior. There are so many... Chris Benoit. There are so many tragic stories that go on in wrestling, and Vince did not even say, yeah, I think I overworked them. I think I was putting them through too much. Granted, again, these are grown humans. They ultimately will make their own decisions. But again, they wanted to feed their families doing the things that they love, and it kills me. But I'm going to jump start till the end, where they talked about Janelle Grant, and Vince was approached to finish the interview, ultimately declined. And I think that tells you what kind of coward Vince McMahon is. Because as soon as things hit the fan, he ran. Because beforehand, they talked about how Vince would always step in front of the gun and be like, hey, this is what happened. And be forefront in center with these. He'd make it a work. Not this time. Which tells me that something is going on deeper. Now, obviously, the feds are still investigating everything that's going on. So, Janelle Grant, she has been placed on hold so the feds can take care of Vince McMahon. And this investigation is still going on. He sold $2 billion worth of stock in Endeavor because ultimately Endeavor bought the company. And Vince ran. Bruce Pritchard is another person that I want to talk about in this. If you guys know who Bruce Pritchard is, he is Vince's yes man. He always has been. I don't care what you say because I guarantee that when these producers approached, they were not under the full understanding that Bruce Pritchard was the yes man that he was to Vince McMahon. So they approached him in 2023 when some of the allegations happened. They asked Bruce, did you see the episodes? He said, yeah. They asked him how Bruce thought about him. He said they sucked. The episodes sucked. They believed that it did not paint the picture correctly of Vince McMahon because they only showed one side and not the human side. Vince has been in this business for 40 plus years. And you're telling me that he couldn't have showed us the human side? Vince couldn't have stepped out of the dickhead bubble that he lived in and showed us that side? Sounds interesting to me. It sounds like Vince McMahon had every opportunity to be human. Bruce said, when his wife got cancer, he made sure that she had the best treatment. I hope with billions of dollars, Vince did that for his wife. I do. That's not human. That is the right thing. Does he want a cookie for doing the right thing? Is that it? He wants to be praised because he made sure that his wife had the best medical treatment. Yes, you had billions of dollars. Your wife was carrying your company on her back. She was the CEO. She made sure that it functioned. And you were out there doing the things that you did. So Bruce is the yes man. Bruce, we've been praying for you to get out of there for the longest time. You're just a shitbag human as him. The same shitbag. You sit right by him. Now, I understand that him and Triple H probably do have a good relationship. Again, nobody was supposed to run the business like Vince. Hulk Hogan said that the business wouldn't continue unless Vince ran it. Look at it now. It's running just fine. Without Vince, you don't need him. You never needed him. Yes, you got the Attitude Era. Yes, you got the Golden Era. Yes, you got the PG Era. Horrible, by the way. Ultimately, this portrayed everything that Vince was. You can flip it, spin it, turn it, all backwards. And this is still the way that Vince should have been portrayed. This is who he is. And you can't change my mind. So I understand that people are going to have their thoughts. People are going to say what they're going to say about this docuseries. This is everything that it was supposed to be. Vince is a horrible human. You can't change my mind. Allegations are not. He's still a horrible human. He's always been a bad human. Yes, he may have never been charged for things. He still did them. I'm sitting here yelling at a camera, and I probably look like one of those crazy people right now. Whew. Ultimately, I'll let you guys talk about it in the comments section below with me. This is a 18-minute long video. Probably going to go a little over. That's my thoughts and my takes on the Vince McMahon docuseries. You guys can let me know down in the comments section below. Just a shitbag human, man. Ultimately, that's my take on it. So you guys let me know down in the comments section below. I appreciate you guys. Twitter, TikTok, Discord. There's also Twitch down there too. Subscribe to them all. We're going to be doing some cool things. Sorry, I got a little overwhelmed here. Just a shitbag human, man. I'll be talking to you guys later. Peace.